Welcome back to the Morning Cuppa podcast with me, Alan. Today, I'm joined by Mark Cowan from Mintrain. Mark and I talk about all things mixer and tipper training and competence. Mark has been campaigning to improve standards within the construction transport sector for years, and with his courses Mixer Sure, Tipper Sure and Quarry Sure, plus the new DVSA earn recognition module for mixers that he was involved in creating, he really is trying to make significant improvements to the sector. Anyway, this was a great one to record. Let's dive straight in. As we hit go, we just start recording. One of these days I will actually work out how to get these started more professionally, but at the moment just start on this. So thank you, Mark, for joining me. To our audience, I know obviously Mark, we've been speaking for about half an hour getting set up, but thank you, Mark, for joining me. I've got Mark Cowan here from Mintrain here today. I'm quite excited for this one. Obviously, I know all the stuff with recognition and the new mixer module is kind of quite a hot topic at the moment. So having you on is kind of. I know we've been trying to set this up for a few months. I think timing-wise, it's been hard, but I think it's worked well because it will go out kind of quite recent to the event. So that's cool. So yeah, thank you very much for joining me.
Welcome.
I guess to start from the beginning, should we do a bit of it? I know we spoke off air about kind of your history of where you came from. I think trying to do a summary as to why people should give a shit about what you're going to talk about is probably a good place to start, because if people don't know who you are, obviously it'd be good to set context. So do you want to kind of do your background in maybe 2 or 3 minutes?
Yeah, well, I'd probably wrap it up in about 30 seconds, but yeah, I mean, I don't mind. So, obviously I started off in the industry as a driver. I've worked all the way, probably most of my life as a driver as well. But a driver slightly different, because what I did a few years back is I created a driver CPC course specifically for mixers. I was sat with my brother in a CPC course. Obviously, as drivers, we have to sort of upkeep our CPC accreditation. We sat on a course about safe loading, and after about the first 10-15 minutes, we were both bored shitless. We're talking about cargo straps, and it went on about pallets, and nothing relevant to what we did on a daily basis. So
just for our audience, what was that? What is your industry then?
It's concrete mixers, ready mix concrete. So we developed the industry's first, back in 2015. The industry's first CPC course specifically for concrete mixers. And it was based on, my brother ran a fleet of, I think at the time, maybe it was 10 trucks, 10 concrete mixers.
Okay.
And so what we did is, it was the training that we provided our drivers, and it was sort of, inception of fours as well. So we were one of the first tarmac hauliers in the Northeast to adopt fours, and I sort of put quite a lot into it, and it sort of realised, we can formalise what we're doing as a training structure. So that's how it all started, and to this day, where we now are we've got Mintrain, who are the one of the industry. There's 2 industry training providers for our specific sector, and we're quite new to the market. There's an established one which everybody's sort of well aware of, and we're quite new to the market, so a little bit of a disruption and a little bit of I don't know really how to sort of explain
competition.
Competition, a little bit of healthy commercial competition. It's not bad as well. So, so that's really where I've come from.
So, I mean, have you always worked in sort of like ready mix? Is that kind of the top driving you did?
You dip out for a month or two, but you're always back. So I've worked in. I've been a haulier in precast. I've had trucks in precast factories as well. So but it's always been around that industry as well. From passing me test, me heavy goods at 21. I was my brother sort of taught us everything I knew and a little bit more. He still runs them to this day as well, and.
Do you still runs?
Yeah. So
how involved are you with that? Do you deliver all this training?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the training side of it now is sort of, that's took over, and obviously we've got a separate training business, and I also work for the Director of Transport for the British Aggregates Association. So, that takes a lot of my time up. That's the British Aggregates Association, or the BEA. a part-time role, but takes up predominantly most of me days, nights, weekends, bank holidays. But it's look, I love it. It's worthwhile. It's really, really good. And but yeah, it's day to day. I tend to spend a lot of time with drivers. I'm still on site. We still train drivers. We still carry out driver assessments. So we're always around concrete plants and drivers. So we have that day to day interaction.
I think that's important. Is almost practicing what you preach. Like you're
still drive and still drive. That's
there. You go. How often do you drive then? Do you get in?
Oh, it was about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, nice. So you actually are, yeah. Is that just because to prove a point that you do still do it, or?
Well, no, not really. But I tend to do it when when we're assessing drivers and training drivers as well. So we get them to we go through a scenario where we want the drivers to assess us. We've gone through this program at the minute where we've got we've worked with the awarding body we use, ENPI Awards, and what we've done is we've created a non-regulated assessors sort of qualification. That meets the National Occupational Standard, and it's an easier route for companies to deliver our stuff under license, sort of in-house, and it brings the cost down. So what we do is we'll drive the truck, and then we'll get the driver to then sort of look as though he's assessing us and pick up. We'll specifically do things the wrong way, and we'll I wouldn't say anything dangerous, but we'll know it's not the right way to do it, and see if they pick up on it. And it's one of the ways we've implemented this this process to identify who would make a good assessor, who can make a good trainer, and who can impart that knowledge as well. So
we interrupt this program for a special report. Not really, just me again. So you've done your CPC exam. Now let's prepare for the real world of transport with the TMC Mentor Program. Join a mentor group on the TMC and get weekly calls plus a private group chat with an experienced transport manager to help guide you whilst you make your first steps into the world of transport management. To find out more, go to tmcollective.co.uk and see how a TMC mentor can help you get ahead. Anyway, that's enough from me. Now back to, me. So I guess taking it back a step, obviously I know I'm aware of all of your kind of different products and different kind of courses. Might well just starting for our audience from the beginning. We're talking about min train specifically here. So we've obviously got Mix Assure, Quarry Assure, and Tip Assure as your three kind of main ones. Do you just want to quickly kind of go through what they are and why you created them?
Yeah. Well, obviously, Mix Assure and Tip Assure. One's for mixers, concrete mixers. One's for tippers, specific to that vehicle type. Everything we do on the transport side is specific to a vehicle, to a specific vehicle. There's never been any sort of specific training or assessments for concrete mixers. We did that in 2015. There's never been anything specific for tippers, so we did that in 2018, 2019. We've had everything sort of at one point or another CPC accredited. We did go down a route of having stuff, which I'll probably touch on to later, of having working with the other industry awarding body. But the other side of it, the Quarry Assure, it covers everything sort of what you would expect in a quarry, so from your plant training, from your health and safety, from the competence side, your geotechnical, all falls under the quarry side. That's not me that delivers it. We've got experts, we've got two of our directors who are industry experts, and so the quarry side of it's not what I get involved in. Mine's more the transport side. So
I say you started off delivering them in 2015, 2018 as the two different courses. You said they were mapped originally to driver CPC and they were delivered under license by the other training provider. Why would someone sort of decide that? Obviously, because I know that this is a qualification or a course that you're running independent of the other training provider now.
Yeah.
Why would someone maybe choose one or the other? What's the sort of pros and cons of kind of? Let's go down the mixer route. Obviously, that's I think probably. Why would someone choose Mix Assure rather than like maybe the MPA MPQC kind of course?
Well, I mean, ours is specific to the vehicle, purely and simple. I mean, if you look at, strip this right down, and when we first started creating, Coffee's stuck. When we first started creating the training, the courses, the assessments, everything that we did had to map to. If you look at, and this goes back to basic health and safety legislation,
Yeah.
the Health and Safety at Work Act, pure regulations. We looked at what the mixer manufacturers themselves, what was in their operating instructions, and the first page in everybody's, the likes of McPhee, Liebherr, Sterling, Eimer, Schwingstetter, they all state that the driver must be fully trained and competent. So we went down that route rather than just that one size fits all tick box health and safety entry level requirement of what they sort of map to the quarry regulations, where everybody had to have some basic health and safety training to be able to get onto a quarrying site. And that's what sort of the route they originally called EPIC. That's the route that they followed. We wanted to do something different, so we come up with, everything that we did was specific to the vehicle. And it has to be just to mandate it to law as well.
Because that's it. I think because obviously the courses you run are not driver CPC at present time. Yeah. But obviously, I think going back to the original point you're making of why you were driving and getting drivers to assess you allowing drivers to assess you, choosing good quality candidates means they can, I'm guessing, deliver things like the mixer sure. Is that the plan? They could then deliver them internally, keeping costs down. Mm-hmm. But again, I think it's hard for a lot of people. I mean, I know a lot of our listeners are transport managers. A lot of them really do give a shit about making sure standards are high. Yeah. And we all know that the driver CPC, in concept, is great. In principle, I think it doesn't quite hit the mark. Obviously, it's going through its kind of review consultation at the moment. So whether that changes much, who knows? But it's not enough. There's more than just that one thing that you need to get hung on to as an operator, as a transport manager. There's a shed tons of other things you've got to show you're trained for. And I think it's really important to kind of tell people that these qualifications, these courses, that you're running are required. They're not good practice. They are actually legally required because they do map to other things other than driver specific CPC.
I think if you just look at you've mentioned transport managers there. The traffic commissioner have statutory documents, and I think number 3, for transport managers specifies in there, a transport manager has to ensure that drivers are fully trained and competent for the vehicle type that they're driving. Probably not worded exactly like that, but that's how everything is mandated in law. So we've got statutory documents from the traffic commissioners. We've got it covered in Health and Safety at Work Act, which is then expanded in pure regulations, where not only does the driver or operator have to be fully trained and competent, but also those that are in charge of them as well. So your transport managers, your line managers, your logistics managers, they all have to have an understanding. We've got what we've done as an industry, people don't want to hear it and, people don't like it. But what we've done as an industry is we've created this course. We've set it a competence card. It's clearly not. And then what we've done is we've just accepted that anybody, if you look at a job role now for a mixer driver, go on Indeed, and look on there, a lot of them will say it must be MPQC trained. MPQC don't train mixer drivers. So what we've done is, although, a lot of it has to be, people like it to be mapped to CPC, we can quite legitimately say what we do covers you from a basic health and safety requirement.
Yeah.
And
it's almost separate from your driver CPC. It's an independent kind of requirement that you've got to have. Yeah. It's something you said there, which I think is an interesting one that I don't actually know the answer. Do you deliver stuff that is specific for transport managers and line managers as an awareness-based piece? Yeah.
So anything we do on for the mixer size again, so anything we deliver for drivers, we also have versions for managers, shipping, the shipping team,
Yeah.
Distribution, anybody who's in that supply chain, we have exactly the same, slightly different context, but we have the exact same courses. I wouldn't say exact same, but we have the same sort of courses that follow the same thread and gives them the same information, just with different responsibilities.
Yeah, which I think is the point you make as a TM is you can't just take, especially as an external TM, you need to know the industry you're working within. You can't just sort of take on an operator. And if you've got no experience in construction, generally, it's actually quite a nuanced industry. And a lot of people don't really know how it works. So, yeah.
I think if you're just touching on the transport manager side, I remember somebody sent us a link to one of the transport manager forums, and there was a guy on there asking whether if anybody, and this is what annoys me about it, he just took on a customer who ran 8 cement mixers. Well, there's no such thing as a cement mixer, the concrete mixers. So, first of all, he was asking, he wanted to know about the maintenance requirements. Is there is there a yearly maintenance requirement? Well, all you had to do was look at the operating instruction manual from that specific manufacturer. McPhee, for example, they have a different set of requirements to what Liebherr do. So it was all in there. It's just, as an industry, we aren't bothered as long as people have this course that ticks a box, and it one size fits all. So, going round in a full circle, everybody in that supply chain has a responsibility to understand that this is a specialist industry and requires specialist training. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
So how are you going about sharing that kind of vision and that mission? Because it's, obviously, I know we're connected on LinkedIn. I see you bang the drum a lot about a lot of this stuff. You're very vocal, and I like it. I think it's important to, a spade to spade at the end of the day, saying as it is. But how do you sort of plan to grow the brand to then deliver this message to more people? Could you say there's obviously healthy competition, commercial competition is good. How do you go about doing that?
Well, I mean, look, I'm not, we've made a decision as a company that, we don't want the monopoly on the training. It then becomes a huge cost to the company to get an assessor on site or a trainer on site, and then look at, maybe they've got a fleet of 50 drivers. It then becomes an expensive show. So what we wanted to do is, and the reason why we've gone down, training people in-house, is to let them deliver it under license. So to give you an example, we get these people trained up as qualified, non-regulated qualified trainers or assessors to be able to deliver our stuff under license. It comes at a very small cost. And then we provide them with all the training materials. We provide them with everything they need, all the assessment criteria, and all we do is we just quality assure it a couple of times a year. And so you're looking at potentially looking. Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to the other industry training providers card at the minute. It's the most expensive CPC course available, which isn't a specialized one, let's say. Right? Yeah. Back in 2015, I think it was about £154 plus VAT. A lot of money. It's a lot of money. It's even more now, I think, So, it proves to me that, it's only there to make money. That's all it does. People are not like it. People don't, if people think I speak out of turn, they've got my email address. They can, they can come and ask me myself. I'll never, ever sort of back down from that. What we wanted to do is we wanted the industry to be able to be safe, to be able to deliver the training in-house. So not just on the mixer side, on the tipper side, on the quarry side. So it was just having that consistent message all the way through, having the materials to do it, and having the people within the company to be up to a standard to deliver it as well.
And also confident to deliver it as well. I'm doing a live stream next week, but it might be last week depending on when this episode goes out. But about, obviously, a lot of the stuff I bang the drum about at the moment is support for transport managers is quite an isolating role, and so I've done this partnership with another organisation that we're delivering a live stream on how to deliver training as a transport manager, which I think would be a really kind of interesting kind of
Yeah,
thing for us to discuss. Probably not on air. We might start going around in circles and discussing ideas that probably best suited to a closed conversation. But the transport managers are by default not trainers. They're not necessarily confident in delivering. I mean, you're a trainer, you understand how to deliver content to people so that it sinks in and people understand. People that listen to the pod know that I used to be a workplace trainer as well. So how to deliver information is a skill. But it also requires a lot of confidence to stand up in front of a group of people and then more sitting you watching, waiting for you to say something is quite intimidating. So I think giving someone the confidence to do that is also quite important. Is that part of like how you train up the
It is, yeah. I mean, we've got one customer, ongoing at the minute, and we've got one of our our lead assessor down there at the minute, and he's training. They put forward 8 candidates, and we had to sort of say, one, were they up to standard drive and operation, and make sure that they had the right mindset, and we're down to 2. So we've gone through that full process. And we whittled it down to 2, but they've got, you're right, experience, it does count for a lot, but it doesn't just, I think what we do as an industry as well is, and this is around everywhere in transport, we sort of confuse experience as competence, and it's completely not. I've worked with drivers, I'll not name any names, but, you can look at drivers who've been driving mixers 20, 25 years, and I wouldn't let them deliver the post.
Yeah.
So it's not, we can't just say, oh yeah, they're experienced. Companies go through a process now is they deliver their training sort of in-house using the most experienced driver. Now I've worked with sort of new drivers who've been with these experienced drivers, but aren't getting any information.
Yeah.
They're just being told what they're doing wrong. They're not getting the reasons why. So, we started a program about 2 years ago with Breedon. And we got a driver in, and the driver was an experienced driver on general haulage, 18 years, and he was setting his ways, and it was a challenge to try and change him, and we changed him within 2 days, and getting him to understand that, and that comes from having being able that confidence to be able to deliver the training, but also deliver each section of the training at the right time as well, so they're not overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Once you define that process, it becomes quite easy. So, for me, that is the way to do it. And if we can get the trainers to buy into that as well, we've got it cracked.
I mean, I'd understand if you don't want to sort of talk prices on air, as it were, but obviously the whole point, your mission is to obviously to improve road safety within kind of the construction transport sector, and this whole quite decentralized model you're looking at, where you're training up people to then deliver it under license, which I think is incredible. Actually, I think it's fairly selfless. Sounds very, very kind of like grandiose. I don't mean that, but it's like you're not holding it as your own. You're actively trying to encourage people to deliver it, because if it means that one more person can get that information, then it was a worthwhile thing, which is very anti the capitalistic view that kind of maybe has been viewed by other training providers.
Yeah.
But it's how does, so in terms of like how much would it cost? Like if let's say I wanted to become one of your trainers, I mean I wouldn't because I can't drive, but like let's say I wanted to. Not HGVs anyway. Let's say I wanted to become one of your trainers and I've been identified as a good quality candidate. What's the process? Is it do I pay to attend a course? Do I pay to then, is it under like what's the structure that you kind of set on?
We'll go through this. We'll charge a sort of a day rate, and what we'll go down is the first is an initial assessment. So we'll go down and we'll assess. We can do potentially on an initial assessment, because it's not recorded, up to 4 a day. So we've got 4 candidates. We can get them down, and we'll have a look at them, and they'll say yeah. Potential, probably needs a little bit longer, or probably, wasting your time. We'll be open and honest with you from the start. We then get the awarding body involved, and it's their qualification. It's not ours. They set the prices. To give you an example, the first step is there's 6 online modules around assessment theory, and they cost £55. That's for the 6 modules. So it's not a big cost.
Yeah.
potentially, if you sat down and did, put your mind to it, you could probably complete them in a weekend, 2 days.
Yeah.
So we want to remove that, and that barrier of cost being the
100%.
If you think of when costs are being cut, the first thing that is in any company is always training.
Yep.
We don't want that, because it's then, you look at, and again, as I said to you earlier, that going back to when we had that license agreement, and it was just sort of cancelled because the course needed updating and it wasn't getting done, and we were getting frustrated, and I cancelled that, and they then wanted to turn it into a commercial competition. For me, it's not a commercial competition. We all got business to run, we all have to make money, and I'll be brutally honest with you, when I cancelled that agreement, just before we did it, 3 months before, they owed me thousands, and I offered to drop that by half, and we agreed on 30%. So I lost about 5-6 grand on that.
Yeah.
And just because I still wanted them to be able to deliver the course, because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating now at this point. And it's still, can I say it boil me piss? It still boils me piss now that there's people within our sector who stand there waving flags about safety, competence, and doing the right thing, and do absolutely nothing. Yeah. That's the frustrating part for me.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I'm as happy as a pig in shit.
I think it was Mental Health Awareness Week this week or last week. It's people, and during Pride Month, there's people that turn their logo kind of rainbow coloured for the month, and then kind of don't actually do anything about it beyond that. And it's the awareness days. It's a box ticking exercise. Mm-hmm. It's all lip service. Nothing actually happens, and that frustrates me. We're rolling out a new product on the TMC. I was talking to another partner of ours, and I was sort of saying, we've got this idea. It's going to be quite a long project. We're going to probably roll it out within the month. And he kind of looked at me and was like, oh, I forget. Like, I work with massive urgency. If I want to do something, I'll go and fucking do it. Mm-hmm. A month is actually not that long a time in the grand scheme of things, but to me, that's like a decade in terms of like things you could deliver. So I'm the same. Inactivity is like, I just hate it. I think
a lot of it is, around sort of buzzwords at the minute, and people sort of, whatever's current and whatever's fashionable, that's what they'll sort of jump on,
Yeah.
And I don't want to go into great detail, but, we've started labeling, mental health. I was talking to a few drivers, and it's sort of, we do a lot with Driving for Better Business, we're a strategic partner of them, and, they've got a couple of, we've got one program that they run around sort of mental health and mental well-being of drivers. Now, it's removing that stigma as well, So yeah. What the industry is doing, transport industry and any other type of industry now, manufacturing, another one, is they've started, appointing people and putting them through qualifications as mental health first aiders, right? Now, you tell me a driver who will go and talk to a mental health first aider, because the other driver will see them talking to him, and the first thing, and this is what the driver said to me, the first thing I was asked was, am I mental? Is there something the matter with us? And that was that stigma, and he couldn't get away from it. And that then just puts up another barrier, doesn't it? So it makes it even harder.
I was actually talking to a friend of mine, totally outside of transport. She works in HR for a large national organisation. It's quite a voluntary-led one. I'm not going to name any names because I know that her and her partner do actually listen to the show. I don't want to throw her under the bus a little bit, but she got put on this mental health first aid course. And it was 2 days about learning about all the different conditions. And I was like, what are you doing? You don't need to know that stuff to be a mental health first aid. You need to just be open and approachable, and actually just be able to talk to people. Actually understanding it's like I used to be a first aid trainer, like as in a physical workplace first aid trainer. And the first thing, and the thing you bang on about is, you ain't a doctor, phone 999. That's basically it. Like, don't try and diagnose a damn problem. Just identify that there is a problem and phone someone who knows far more than you do and can actually solve the problem. And I think sometimes within mental health, it's like, oh, we all want to help, which is great. But actually, sometimes you can overhelp in that situation. I think it's far better to kind of not label people as first aiders, because I think that's really unhelpful.
They don't need to have a label, and I think it's it's a little bit contradicting that we've got these these bigger organisations who are huge on how many mental health first aiders they've actually got, and then, treat the hauliers and the drivers like absolute shit.
But the metric they can measure is how many first aiders they've got. So they can tick a box how successful they are in achieving that goal. Whereas, I mean, with our other side of the business, we work a lot with kind of franchise hauliers within the construction industry, just like you do. So we understand that actually the standards, irrelevant of the standards, the perceptions of hauliers and drivers is really, really kind of low at the moment. People are not kind of happy with a lot of things going on, and it's just like that has a big impact. Like these hauliers, they're small operators. Like they're not resilient to price changes, and like actually paying people fairly for what they do is kind of important, and that has a big impact on mental health. We have gone down the right track away from what we meant to be talking about.
Yeah, I know. Well, what we're talking about, we're going to talk about training, I think.
Yeah, I think so. In terms of doing the assessors, it's £55 to do the 6 modules online.
To do the 6 modules, yeah, and then you've got the once they're up to or we think they're up to a standard, we might go down 2 or 3 times with them. Might have a really experienced driver, a really good mindset. They've potentially done it before, or it's been part of their job role, just not officially. And we'll just make sure they're up to a standard. It could take 2 visits, it could take 6. We don't put a time limit on it. What we'll do is, over a course of a period of time, is under license, we'll give them access to all of our training materials, whether it be e-learning, whether it be PowerPoint presentations, whatever it is, and we'll support them, those trainers and mentors and assessors over a 12-month period as well, so that they're never left alone. And you look at a cost of, I don't know, under license for our e-learning modules, about a tenner per driver per month. It's not much. A month. So, we want to just remove that barrier of being, everything being done for money as well. We've even started, just say you've got a one haulier who wants it and it's £120 a year. We've started to offer, we've created different divisions within the BEA, one of them being a concrete division. So anybody who joins that, get a 15% discount on what we offer. We'll work with companies too. We'll have payment plans in place so they can pay a bit of a smaller deposit and then pay a monthly payment, So we work with companies so they're not having to fork money out hand over fist to get the training that they should, 1, have, and 2, deserve. So
in terms of let's say you've got a haulier, got a driver that you've deemed as competent, you've trained them up, you've done that, the online modules, you've sort of deemed them competent, and you give them access, and they wanted to deliver it in person rather than online. Because I know a lot of people do like that physical kind of. If they were to deliver that, how do you price that kind of model? Is that per course delivered, per person?
It depends if they want a CPC version of the course or whether they just want if they just want an in-house version, potentially it's what the so if you've got a PowerPoint version might have 2 subjects in it. So we just break that up and put them on the e-learning in small segments. So basically it doesn't matter which way they get it, the price is exactly the same.
Okay, fair enough.
So,
okay, we will talk, and I am aware that you have got a train to catch, you've got a lift to pick up to go where you need to go. So we'll start. We said this, we'd start wrapping up within half an hour, so it becomes a 45-minute recording. So that's what we'll do. I think we do need to talk after the recording about how we could work together on this, because I think there's some really exciting kind of possibilities of TMs being involved with this process. Because I think, as you say, the more people have it, the better. I think the wider the reach we go down, the more people that kind of want to share this is important. Because there's until really talking to yourself, I've been involved within kind of aggregate and mixer kind of industry for a while now, and it never really occurred to me that there was something out there other than kind of the industry
preferred route.
There you go. I was trying to find the correct terminology that we're going to go with. That card that people kind of think is a required kind of box to be ticked. As has really opened my eyes, and obviously following you on LinkedIn has been an eye-opening experience, seeing things you talk about and stuff. So it's been kind of. I
think just touching on the card as well, and I think it really needs to. It's important to say that as I said earlier, could it be clever marketing that they've said the card is an industry requirement? But to date, and I've just, again, whenever this sort of goes out, but we've just released another blog last night, I think, and it's gone on the website. And I think that, that tells you the importance that this this card scheme has never, ever been an industry requirement. It hasn't. But to date, they're still saying it is. It's available on their website as a webinar, and it gives out that, what we're doing is, above and beyond, and it doesn't even tick the bare minimum.
Yeah.
For me.
We'll definitely link to that blog in the show notes, because I think I was having a quick read before we came on air, and I think it's important that people read that. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk for days about other bits and bobs, and I'm aware that as though you do have that train to catch. So I guess how can people? I mean, we're going to talk off air about kind of other things we can do, and it might become something that we kind of talk to our audience about in a bit more detail. But in the meantime, what can sort of people do to find out a bit more? Email you, find you on LinkedIn, go to your website.
I mean, look, I get accused of being, putting too much on LinkedIn, but we even get emails telling us, to have us put back in my box, and I shouldn't be saying things, but at the end of the day, we all have opinions. Yeah. And it's that this is just my opinion. The difference with my opinion is, I think, everything's backed up by, factually incorrect information. I haven't pulled the wool over anybody's eyes. Some people say I'm a, self-fulfilling prophet. I'm the complete opposite. I'm just stating facts that, the industry should have done things better from day one.
Yeah.
But, looking on LinkedIn, we've got a website, I'm sure you'll provide email addresses, phone numbers. You just have to search on LinkedIn and come across us. So, but there's easy ways to get in touch with us.
I guess we have run out of time, but do you want to say anything about the DVSA's recognition mixer module that kind of? I know it's a fairly hot topic, and we've not actually touched on it, unfortunately.
We've got 10 minutes to talk about it, so.
Yeah, screw it. There's not that. Elizabeth, don't cut that bit out. There you go. What's that?
We're just going through it now anyway. So.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I must say I've not had a chance to really dive into it, but I knew I was going to be talking to yourself about this, so I guess I can learn a little bit what we're talking. What was the motivation? How did it go about getting kind of starting with the idea and then actually getting it as part of the DVSA sort of scheme?
So I think, going back to, 2014 and, when we first, through my brother, we got that first FORS accreditation. FORS started off being the preferred scheme for our sector. I think it could have been adapted a little bit better. It was funded at the time and everybody wanted to jump on board with it. I think there was our industry needed a separate specific standard. We looked at, could we do that through FORS? Could we do it? We've had conversation with Mission Zero. We started talking to Phil Breen at DVSA, a couple of others as well. And I think one thing that sort of stuck in my head is, the industry needed something, and it was, you've got to remember within our industry that, there's a whole group of self-appointed leaders. I don't know what's given them that who's given them that title or how it's been afforded. But, one of the emails I got back talking about standards, I was talking to Kate Cairns, who, if you know who Kate is, was, Kate has campaigned after losing her sister she was killed by an HGV in London, a cyclist. Her sister was cycling. And she's campaigned for, over 10 years. And she's one of the reasons why Clocks is about. And, and I was talking to her about it. And, we were talking about standards. And when you look at it, the standards that was available through FORS and Mission Zero didn't fit, and it was a one size fits all again. And I think we needed something specific. So talking to Phil, people think earned recognition is something similar to FORS. You have to go out and, achieve it. But you don't. It's a standard that if you run trucks, that's what DVSA expect you to have anyway. So, we thought, do we go down the route of creating a module with DVSA? So we did. It wasn't just me. There was a group of people. One of them was our health and safety director, Roy Bush, who is an ex-HSE quarries inspector for over 24 years, something like that. And Roy's shit hot with health and safety. He pretends he's not, but he can quote every bit of legislation He's like the Gandalf of health and safety. So when Roy speaks, I tend to listen. So, Roy just stripped everything down to the basics. We looked at stuff like, British standards for truck mixers, which companies didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
Well, that's how shit our industry is. The Institute of Road Transport Engineers rollover guidance, which was done with Aggregate Industries, Cenex, Hanson, and all of that in about 9 places references the most fundamental and important way to prevent rollovers is driver training and education. And nobody in the industry offers it, right? So what we did was we mapped that concrete operational audit standard not to what we thought should be in, but to laws, legislation, and to standards that's already available. So it's not that you can't meet it, you just don't want to meet it.
Yeah.
And I think what it does now is it gives the traffic commissioner, a little bit of guidance around especially road security. We got involved massively with Driving for Better Business and DVSA we still through the BE have a road security campaign. And this was born from tippers, but we had to provide guidance not just for tippers but for the other industry vehicles. One of them, the other major one, was concrete mixers.
Yeah.
But the industry wouldn't adopt it because it just came from a small organization called the BEA. And for me, that's sad.
Yeah.
We create things for the industry, and it's about, it should be about collaboration and doing the best things for the industry.
Yeah.
But we don't. We just do things to tick box and to suit everybody else's individual agenda. That for me, that's not how an industry should be run.
And I think it does. I mean, I know you're obviously waiting to go now, so we'll kind of start wrapping up properly this time. But I think it does lead. We've got an aging population in the UK. Yeah. We've also got a massively aging population within transport, and I think it's even worse within the construction industry. I think it's really hard to recruit new blood because it's seen as quite backward at times and quite not linked up, as you say, and I think that's going to just become bigger and bigger a problem as years go by. I think things like we're doing here, talking openly about this sort of stuff and actually trying to collaborate with other organisations is by far the best way of getting around that. So I think
I'll have upset a few people by the time this goes out, Alan. So
it's fine. I'll be
setting hat on.
That's fine. Well, I'll make sure I'll put a disclaimer. This is the views of Mark and not no. I'm fine to open up and see what people kind of contact us. I'm happy to talk to people about this. I think it's important at the end of the day. So that's why I wanted you on. So
I think, for me, there's a lot more, and I think today we've probably scratched the surface as well. I mean, one of the reasons I'm down in Peterborough today is obviously we work with flagship partners in Logico to deliver our sort of CPC training, but I think it's, scratching the surface of what needs to be done doesn't need to be just belong to Mintrain. It should belong to the industry.
Yeah.
And if anybody else in the industry doesn't want to get involved or wants to get involved for the wrong reasons, then we have to look outside the industry, and that's what we've done. And I think it's one of these that'll go on and on for years and years until we get rid of that. I had to remove a reference to boys clubs and sort of closed clubs in a few of the blogs, but it's how I feel. There's an old guard, and it's the same people making the same decisions over and over again, and just getting it wrong. So
we'll sum it up there. So thank you, Mark, for joining us. I know this is as you say, just scratching the surface. So I'm sure we'll be doing something in the future where people can ask questions and get involved in more detail. So thank you, Mark, for joining me, and thank you to our audience for listening, and I guess we'll see you guys next time.
Lovely. Thanks for having us.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Alan. Thank you.
Thank you to Mark for joining me this week, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Morning Cuppa podcast. If you like this week's episode, be sure to go ahead and leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from. That will help us get in front of even more transport professionals just like you. As always, I love chatting to other transport professionals, so do go ahead and find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, using the links somewhere below that Elizabeth will put somewhere. That's all from me. Once again, thank you for listening to the show. I've been Alan, and this has been the Morning Cuppa podcast.